All right, Dee McGillivray, the woman who you met earlier on the grid team, she said this: we all have to go through a high degree of shit, of things
Mm-hmm.
that we hate, in order to subjectively succeed and achieve our direct definition of self.
100%.
Like she said that this morning,
Right.
and like she had no idea that we were going to be talking about this stuff today. And I bring it up because a lot of the people who I've learned from the most in recent times, and I won't include you because I don't know your background on this, they've been like hard drug addicts. They've gone to prison. They've done they've done things that have been remarkably negative to them or those around them.
Mm.
And there's one of them that spent time in jail, and now he's probably one of the best people I've ever worked for in my
Mm.
life.
Right.
Um, I won't say who it
Right.
was; so he would not be happy with me about it. But
Well.
those who also have the ability, I've come to find, anecdotally speaking, those who have the ability to preach how to objectively improve oneself has
Yeah.
been through some of the highest degrees of trauma, but not necessarily like battle trauma or like
Right.
war
Right.
or whatnot. Like, Uncle Frank war type stuff as
Well,
well
yeah, I
as a
mean,
kid.
that's the thing. There's so many people on like Instagram and YouTube that are like retired Navy SEAL, like 47-year FBI agent or whatever. Like trauma doesn't have to be like I killed 47 people in the line of duty. Like it could be like, hey, I was picked on relentlessly when I was in fourth grade.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be something far less dangerous.
Oh yeah. I treated my wife like shit for 10 years. It could be something like that. I'll tell you, I use that because Gene, we've talked about it before, but that 10-year recognition that I have now, it damaged me so much that I felt as though I had been through hell.
Yeah.
I felt as though like I traumatized myself, and my response was to become very depressed and anxious, etc.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no one else did it. I did, and that's also why I started to develop the dissociative identity disorder stuff,
Right.
because that's for another talk if you ever want. Um, I'll try to circle it back here. The that development of a skill set to grow with the shadow.
Yeah.
I would argue that a lot of it comes from your Navy SEAL buddy, Home Dog. What's his name again?
Mark
No,
Devine.
no, Mark
My
Devine.
buddy. I mean, let's
That
put it this way.
I was just kidding.
For 70% of the time, he didn't know I existed.
Well, that okay. Well, so in that, so the people who impact us the most usually don't know who we are,
Hmm.
and even when they do know us, they may not know who we are
Yeah.
because we're going to not know who we are because our version of self is going to be our ego, which is going to be what society says we are, because that is our troubleshooter.
Right. Right. Right.
So here's the badass part about the shadow, Gene, is, and we'll circle it to your assault bike example of what happened recently. Your ego was, okay, people are going to be expecting me to do this, so I have to do this.
Yeah.
Well, you have the skill set to block that out completely. So if you picture us as this big ass boat, and the ego is our tugboat,
Mm.
and it's pulling us to whatever tugboat's doing, we are never going to hitch off of that tugboat until we are able to confront the shadow. In this sense, with you, your ego may have been in the past like, I can't quit. I'm going to stress out because people don't expect me to quit. I'm
Yeah.
afraid, but I have to do this because of they say that I am a certain way.
Yeah.
Well, now, Gene, the reality of you is like, okay, I'm going to cut that cord, and my ego can drift off. Myself is going to do that
Yeah.
because I value number one myself, and number two these people. I value these people because that is what my meaning in life is. My meaningful life state. Excuse me, is myself, my family, and these people. And that's why you're running the gym as well as you are now. You have this podcast going, and you're doing a badass job. So something
Thank
has
you.
happened in your life to where your shadow didn't get its ass kicked. You took your shadow on a date, You guys had a nice conversation. You talked about some things that, just like
Yeah.
whenever we have a good conversation with people we have the biggest debates with,
Yeah.
you had a nice dinner, good conversation, and now you can meet in the middle. You're
Yeah.
helping your shadow's helping you. Now I'm speaking of this in two different people. The reality is it's one.
Yeah.
And but by omitting the shadow, you cannot be one. It's impossible because you're constantly going
Yeah.
this direction. Well, it's going this direction, and it's trying to
Yep.
grab you back and pull you back really hard. Now, I'll use a quick example, um, and I'll kind of circle it back to our psychedelic stuff from the past
Yeah, we
couple
got to get
times.
back there. Yeah.
Um, the there's a session that I did a while ago that still sticks out to me. I was at a good state of mind. It was a good point. Things were going well, and then I did my session, and at the end of it, I was like, "Wait a minute, something's off." So picture a void, and in this void, there's a floating path of jagged rock, like a flat on top, jagged rock on the bottom type of thing. That's stereotypical in a void, walking
Right.
on floating rocks or whatever. Um, I viewed that as like my brain waves, or my brain matter, my brain communication, whatever, is being laid down. It's becoming foundational again. And
Mm.
then I looked off to my right and I noticed something. There was a piece floating out there. And on this little small piece of floating jagged rock, there was there was about 10 to 11-year-old starving kid sitting in the fetal position in a bird cage. And I've still yet to get to that kid. I've been building a bridge to get to that child, and I'm almost there.
Mm.
So that is another piece, in my opinion, of my shadow archetype trying to become a part of me again. Like there's something there because that little boy, like, I kind of recognize him. I think it's what I would look like if I were a starving child. I know that's hard to kind of. I got belly. That's hard to kind of see, but the the the
Come on.
it's a remarkable degree of excitement. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here slowly crossing this long ass bridge. It's taken about 4 or 5 months now, trying to get to this kid to help him
Yeah.
and to see why he's there. Like, what's the purpose of this starving, abandoned child? So I'm developing theories like, am I suffering from abandonment issues somewhere, and it not be family related? What's happening? And there's been the sequence of events that I'm not comfortable like sharing in a public forum. I can talk with you privately about sometime as to how I'm kind of laying down some of those planks. But that is I don't know if it's well pictured, but a potential picture that could be seen is how we can get back to our shadow and why it may
Yeah.
be important to include what we hate about ourselves in our life. I mean, like we said before, the perception or the reality is failing breeds success in some
Yeah.
degree. How you define it is subjective, and success can breed success, but failure breeds the highest degree of success. And I don't
Yeah.
mean like monetary success, whatever. So, Gene, there's a portion to where we said today that we wanted to talk about how can we actually achieve
Yeah.
confronting our shadow archetype with a remarkable degree of comfort, and then come away from confronting our shadow with positivity. Um, and what I'll start off now. Are we cool to shift into that?
Absolutely.